Where love, as we begin to understand even through Scripture, is that it's sacrificing, self-sacrificing, and the object of your love, you would sacrifice yourself for that individual. Maybe not so much your life like Jesus did, but maybe your wants, your desires, your wishes, that you would put somebody else's desires, somebody else's wishes, somebody else's wants, their heart condition before your own, especially your father or your mother. And so speaking to the young people at juvenile detention this morning, and this is when I considered this particular verse, and when I went to speak, I asked them, how many of you love your mothers? And of course, just about all of them raised their hand, and I said, no, you don't. And then they were kind of taken back, and one young man got sort of angry with me. But what I suggested to them is, how many of your mothers are heartbroken that you're in here? How many of your mothers are heartbroken of the lifestyle that you've chosen to adopt? So in other words, what you're telling me is that you put your desires, your wants, your wishes ahead of their heart condition and allowed their hearts to be broken. So evidently you would not sacrifice your wants for the desires of that object of your love. And that's what love truly is, even as we understand, from Scripture. You would sacrifice your wants for the desires of someone else, like your mother. And that was quite interesting. And we talked about that for a while. Why can't we love? Why don't we love? Why isn't that the natural thing to do? Love your mother, love your father. And so we begin to examine that, and we looked at a child, a baby, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and I love her so much. And the love for her, it like overwhelms me, it consumes me, I love her, like, so much. I have a son, but, he's a boy. This is a girl, and it's, it's so different, And I really understand love. But and then so that helps me even recognize the love that I don't have for others, evidently, because I would sacrifice just about anything, like for my children, but for my parents, or for my brothers, for my sisters, for my wife. There's that question mark. But that's good, because this is exercise, because you're supposed to love these people, and you might find that you don't, but through this exercise you might recognize the need to love and go to the Lord and ask God, help, put this love in my heart for these people that I'm supposed to be loving. But anyway, I was thinking of it from the reverse then, from the child, because we were children once, and it seems that we have a hard time loving. Our relationships are kind of jacked up, whether they're boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, whether they're husband and wife relationships. Our relationships seem kind of jacked up, and I believe it's because of this concept of love that we throw around, especially on Valentine's Day and every other day of the year, especially when we want something. The question is, do we love? Do we even understand love? I know that's the old line of the guys, when they're talking to a girlfriend, that they don't want to tell them they love you. It's like, well, I don't really know what love is. But, all joking aside, the reality is we really don't know what love is. We could probably pass a test, answer that question correctly on a test, what love is. But the reality is, do we experience it? Do we feel it for real? Most of what we call love is somewhat selfish for the feeling that we get, rather than the sacrifice for the individual. And so you find even in the beginning, in a new relationship, you are sacrificing, but you're not really sacrificing, because you're getting pleasure even out of what seems to be sacrificing, because you have an agenda, or you have an excitement, for the moment over something that's new, an individual that's new in your life. But you find in time how you feel about that individual. Can you sacrifice for the individual? That's what love is. It's very important to recognize that. So I was thinking about my daughter when she was born. And how children, babies, when they come into the world, they don't love. They're the most selfish creatures on the planet. You know, their needs need to be met. But they're not really selfish either. They're just not really conscious of what's really happening. They don't really have an understanding of the world that they're in. And so when they feel discomfort, they just respond to the discomfort. And then the needs are met, and they get used to that happening. And it sort of breeds the selfishness while they're still in their subconscious kind of state. Then they grow up, and they begin to form a relationship with the need meters. And they begin to walk after the need meters, and they begin to suck up the knowledge and information they're picking up from the need meters. And they begin to become like the need meters. What I found, being a parent over the years, is it's very important to have a relationship with God for real, because that's where you get love. That's where you are taught love, walking in relationship with the Father, the Creator that loves you. And it's that love reality that you're walking in is gleaned by your child. Okay? That's where the love comes from. That's where the reality of love comes from, is from the Creator. And so if you don't have that relationship with God for real, you haven't really that particular trait to impart in your child. It's a God kind of love, the perfect example. And the problem is we don't see that. We find ourselves so dysfunctional because we come up in families where there is no real love. We come up in families where the parents, well, they're 50% of the marriages are broken up. So you're going to find half of the young people or more are coming up in families without even the example of a love between parents, because the parents aren't even together. Dysfunction. Inability to grasp that concept of love because there's no example in the household. And then you find the other households where the parents are still there. You might find the guy, pinging, the wife, or cheating on each other, or just disrespectful to each other. And so there's no example of love in those situations as well. So you have children growing up. So you have 50% of at least, probably a little more, of the households that are split. So you got 50% of the young people growing up without the example of love between their mother and their father. And then you have a large percentage of even the 50% that stay together of those children seeing parents that really don't care too much about each other. The parents that care more about their own individual needs being met than the needs of their spouse. So the children growing up, at least in this country, have no concept to glean true love. And so then they grow up and have relationships of their own and perpetuate this same dysfunction. It's very interesting.